Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today, and welcome to Talks at Google. My name is Katarina Haverland, and I lead Grow with Google efforts at Google. And I have a great pleasure and honor to have here today a very special guest, Mo Gawdat. Hi, Mo.
Hey, nice to be back.
It's great to have you. So Mo is here today to talk to all of you about control, which is a pervasive modern day illusion, as he calls it. And it leads to work-related stress, and often it blurs our judgment and leads to wrong decisions among people at work. And it also goes home with us to cause suffering and unhappiness. And Mo is a former control freak, if I may say so, who learned, unfortunately, the hard way, the truth about control. And he will talk about many things, but also concepts that not only helped him advance his career to reach the highest levels of success as the chief business officer of Google X, but it also helped him survive the tragic loss of his wonderful son, Ali, turning his loss into a global mission and a movement to make millions of people happy by writing this tremendous book called Solve for Happy. So without further introductions, I would like to kindly ask Mo to give us a lecture about the illusion of control, and then we will ask some questions. So over to you, Mo.
Thank you, Katerina. It's always good to be back. I'm hoping that there will be a few friends in the audience today. I'm, as always, now that I'm no longer a control freak, I'm totally unprepared. I just scribbled a few notes on a screen here, and I'll try to take you through them because the topic is quite timely. We've been in lockdown, in a bit of a panic mode. We've been listening to the news media telling us that everything's going out of control, that, the economic situation is not great, that we're losing lives, that we're unable to contain the virus, that, this is a pandemic that is unprecedented since the 1920s or whatever that is. And it's quite difficult for many of us in many ways. Some of us are suffering from just the idea of the lockdown itself. Some of us are suffering from worry and fear. Some of us may have lost a loved one, but many of us are suffering, in my personal point of view, from lack of control, from I don't know how to handle this. This is a first-time thing for me. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how I can make life sort of yield to my wishes and my hopes. And that makes things a little difficult. So I want to talk about the topic of control, as Kat said, from a retired control freak point of view. And I actually want to start by helping you align with me on what is that topic of control. So I want everyone to, if you don't mind, just find a pen or anything that you can dangle, a keychain, your phone, whatever that is. Okay, and I want you to hold it from the top so that it's free to move, almost like a pendulum, if you want, right? And if you take your pen and basically keep it that way, it takes very little effort from your side to take it, to keep it in that position, which is known as equilibrium for any pendulum, right? If you want to control the position of the pen outside equilibrium, so if you want to just take it a little bit off its center to the side, it takes a tiny bit of effort. So of course, if it's a pen and it's very lightweight, it's not a lot of effort when you think about it. Huh? It's just you put your finger here and it's very easy to move. Okay, and I want you to actually practically make that move. Just try and see what it takes. It takes a bit of force. And for as long as you want the pen to be off its equilibrium, you will have to keep that force applied, okay? And once you leave it, it goes back to its equilibrium point. Now, when you think about it, that act of control, that act of taking something outside its balance, is an act that we apply to a lot of things in our daily lives every single minute of every day, okay? And that act might appear, just like keeping the pen off its balance point appears to be simple, because control is force applied over a very long period of time that effort becomes quite significant, okay? And I want you to try and imagine a few changes to this experiment. So one change is, imagine if this hanging from its top is not a pen, but it's a rod, a steel rod that weighs 100 pounds. And you were supposed to move it this way. The force that you apply will be a lot more than your finger, okay? You will need to apply a lot more force to get to that state of control, right? If you were even if it's just this pen, and you wanted to keep it off its balance for, say, 10 hours, okay? Just keeping your finger in this place for 10 hours, as simple as that task may appear, I can guarantee you over 20, 30 minutes, you're gonna start to get fatigued, you're gonna start to get pain in your hand, you're not gonna be able to keep that pen in that position for too long. So the amount of force you need to apply and the amount of time you need to keep it out, in a controlled position, makes the task a little harder. Now imagine on the third concept to think about, that it's not one pen, but I had 60 pens lined up for you, and I wanted you to hold each of them off its center a little bit. And how much effort will you have to apply to just jump between them and try to keep each of them in that off-balance position when they're not one, not two, but 40, 50, 60 things. So the idea of control is an attempt to keep things off their natural balance. Off the natural balance, you apply force over time. And the further you apply that, so if you want to take it all the way up here and you let go, look at what the pen does. It goes all the way to the other side, and then a little bit here, and then a little bit there, and just moves and oscillates until it gets to equilibrium. And that kind of behavior leads to chaos. So, you try to control your weight, for example, by applying a lot of force to your diet and starving yourself so much that when the minute the diet stops, you go back the other way. You gain a little bit or a lot of the weight back, and then you apply diet again, and then, it's just that pendulum swing. And that seems to be the nature of our life when we're attempting to apply control. Now, the real question I sometimes ask people, and they normally get the answer wrong, is how many things are you trying to keep in control every day? Okay? And most people will say, I try to control 2 or 3 things, and I'll give you a couple of seconds to think about this. How many things do we try to control on a daily basis? And my answer is, if you're a Googler, if you're someone who's into technology and is listening to this talk, it's probably around 100 things, okay? And yes, you're going to say, no, of course not. But then I'll tell you, yes, you try to control coming here on time. You try to control your diet and convince yourself that quinoa is delicious. You try to control your children and convince them that they shouldn't play. You try to control yourself and not go to the bathroom because you have to finish an email first. And there are so many little attempts of control that happen in our life that are actually quite tiring, right? It's those 60 pens that I tell you we're trying to keep off balance all the time. And the more interesting thing that we don't realize is that things, surprisingly, if I ask you how many you actually keep within control, you'll be surprised to know that almost none of them are actually fully under control, okay? And once again, people will say, what are you talking about? My team is under control, my work is under control, my children are disciplined and they are obedient. Everything is under control. Yes, it's under control for as long as you have that difficult effort of applying force to it, okay? But nothing remains within control unless you have that effort in it. And once you remove the effort, everything falls out of control. Now, this is not me giving you a philosophical view of control. This is actually the reality of the laws of physics that the universe is designed around. So anyone that understands the basic rules of physics, starting from the second law of thermodynamics all the way to our understanding of the universe expanding, and the way our the mechanics of the universe work. It's all built on something that's called entropy. Entropy, or chaos theory, if you want, that describes that behavior of the universe, is the tendency for physical phenomena to break down, to go out of control, right? So if you drop an egg or a glass, it breaks. And even though mathematically there is one probability that that glass would break, and then all of the pieces would fly in the air and then come together so that the molecular forces between the different components fit together so that the glass comes together unbroken. That's actually a plausible scenario in mathematics. The chaos theory says that this scenario is one in trillions of scenarios, and it rarely ever happens, if at all, if it happens at all. And accordingly, you're almost certain that every time you're going to drop an egg, the egg is going to break and not unbreak. That if every time you leave a garden unhedged, it's going to grow wild and not hedge itself. That every time you leave your children to express themselves, they're going to play and jump up and down and might actually shout and scream. And that's the nature of the universe that we live in. Nassim Taleb talks about what we are now living in his great book, The Black Swan, and the mathematics of major events that affect our life that are rare in occurrence, but when they occur, they completely change everything. And one of them is the idea of the black swan that we're now living through, right? Is that, a pandemic, unexpected at the beginning, or at least for many of us, unexpected at the beginning of the year, would change everything, would put us under lockdown, or get us to work from home, will force us to stay with our partners at home, and so on and so forth. So this is one phenomena that is rare in occurrence, but major in its impact. And the other phenomena, of course, that we always remember is the idea of butterfly effects, which are little effects, little changes in life as we know it, that have a very far-reaching impact when compounded. And the example of butterfly effects basically is about weather prediction, and the fact that changes in wind speeds that are analogous to the flappings of the wing of a butterfly in Brazil can lead to a hurricane in Florida. Okay, and between butterflies and black swans, I basically believe that nothing in our universe is under control. And am I saying that to tell you that, give up on control? Of course I'm not, okay? I think our attempt to control certain events in our life is what made humanity successful, okay? Is what made us safe, is what created civilization, is what allowed us to build Android phones and, create technology and so on and so forth, is through that attempt of control. But what I'm asking us to do is to understand the nature of the beast, to understand the nature of control, so that when we deal with it, we can deal with the practicality side of control, but not the unhappiness side of control. Now, attempting to be always in control, I can promise you as a retired control freak, is an absolute guaranteed recipe for unhappiness. And the reason I say that is because if some of you may have not been exposed to my work before, is because I have an equation for happiness. And my happiness equation is very straightforward. It says your happiness is equal to or greater than the difference between the events of your life and your expectations and hopes and wishes of how life should behave. Okay, so basically, every event that happens in your life, you compare that event in your head to how you would have wanted that event to be, okay? And if the event falls short from your expectations from life, you feel unhappy. So rain never makes anyone happy or unhappy. There is no inherent value of happiness in rain. The rain makes you happy when you are interested to water your plants, for example, and it makes you unhappy if you want to sunbathe. Okay, and so the event itself has no inherent value of happiness, but the idea of you of the event missing your expectations is what makes you happy or unhappy. Now, with that in mind, you have to start thinking about control as an expectation that is rarely ever met, because those who want control in their life are expecting that life is constantly going to comply to what they need life to be. Okay. And as a control freak, as a retired control freak, that gave me tremendous unhappiness. Okay. So I was very concerned about the environment. I'm not making this up. It was actually true. I gave my wonderful ex-wife a spreadsheet that basically said, based on what I've seen from the consumption rates of the kids and myself, I would recommend that you plug this data into the spreadsheet, and it will tell you when to wash the colors and when to wash the whites, and that way we can save the environment a little bit of water and reduce the impact of the soap that we use. And poor Nibel would look at me, and smile and hug me and say, "Sure, baby, I'm going to do that." And of course, she wouldn't, right? And maybe that event didn't, piss me off at the time, but other events did. It's like I expected that every time I traded in the stock market, because I'm supposed to be mathematically clever, I would make money every time. And you have to learn the hard way that the stock market is designed for you to lose sometimes and win sometimes. Okay, that nothing is ever always under control. That when I, design myself a path to get from my office to a client, that it's supposed to take 40 minutes, and Google told me it took 40 minutes, or at the time there was no Google, and it ends up taking 32 instead of 40, and now I have wasted 8 minutes, and that's, to me, believe it or not, a reason to be upset that events didn't meet my expectations. I wasted 8 minutes. And so between events and expectations, control freaks are some of the unhappiest people on the planet. And the reason they are some of the unhappiest people on the planet is because their expectation is so unrealistic. They expect to always be in control, and life never gives us that control. As a matter of fact, through entropy, life is designed to break that illusion of control. That's one thing. The other thing, of course, is the effort. Just the fact that you're constantly putting in effort to keep so many pendulums off their center, okay, is just by definition tiring. It's stressful. It takes so much mind work. It takes so much concern and worry and design and planning. It takes so much future centricity that you actually rarely ever stay in the moment. Okay. And because you're control freakish, you're constantly planning, you're constantly analyzing, and you're constantly trying to keep things in control. And that leads you to unhappiness. So the real question is, if you want to be happy and successful, okay, so if you want to be happy, you should give up on control. You should do what the Hindus, for example, call detachment, which is, I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm not really responsible for the result. This is also a Muslim spiritual belief that basically everything is in the hand of the designer of God, and so I will do my absolute best. But they say, Inshallah, if God is willing for this to happen, it will happen. And I believe in that. I believe in the idea of surrendering sometimes to the mighty wheels of life. But at the same time, I also believe in the idea of attempting to move the wheels of life in a direction that's good for you, good for your family, good for society, good for humanity at large. Okay. And so to be able to do that, to be able to have an impact in life, you also have to apply, or at least aspire, for a little bit of control, for some control. Okay. And the wisdom when it comes to the topic of control is really all about what is it that you should control. Okay. What is it that you should control, and how should you react when things fall out of control? Now, to try and explain what it is that you should control, you start to ask yourself, if I was given everything that I attempted to control today, and let's say you counted 48 things, okay, and I ranked them in order, and I said, the most important of them was this one, and the least important of them was that one, and everything is ranked in between. Wouldn't it be wise for you to say to yourself, I should attempt to control the most important ones first, and then second, and then third, and then fourth. And if I run out of bandwidth, or if I run out of happiness, because happiness is my priority, I should probably stop at number 6. And, maybe number 7 is not worth me destroying my own happiness for 7 years. Okay. And it's a very interesting question, because that question requires a bit of reflection of what matters most. Does it matter most that Nibel, my wonderful ex-wife, would wash the whites and the colors in an exact moment in time? Does it matter most that I arrive efficiently at my meeting exactly on time and not 8 minutes late and not 4 minutes? Sorry, not 8 minutes early and not 4 minutes late? Or is it, or does it matter more for me to be relaxed and unstressed and joyful when I arrive at that meeting? Okay, or does it matter more for me and Nibel to be close and loving and happy and not too worried about too many details and too many control issues? Okay, and I attempt to leave this up to you. I can give you a methodic, mathematical way of how you should prioritize things and how, where to draw the line, but maybe that's too much control. Maybe you should ask yourself the question, in reality, what's the truth? How many things am I trying to control? How many of them really matter? And how many of them can I give up on? Okay. And if I give up on them, is there a way for me to continue to be successful in life, achieve 95% of my aspirations without really having to control the 80% that are needed, the 80% of the issues that I'm trying to control, which lead to additional 5% of aspirations in life? Very, very, very interesting question. And one of my most inspiring movies, I use a lot of movies when I try to talk about topics of human development, because you can relate to them. One of my favorite movies of all time is the movie Forrest Gump. And I'm sure some of you have seen it. And if you've seen it, you must have loved it, right? And Forrest Gump gives you that view of a wonderful human being that's able to flow through life with very, very, very little control. Okay, flow through life with an optimism that life will always be okay, right? Flow with life with a sense of adventure, that being on a shrimping boat or being a baseball player, either way is part of the journey of living. And he ends up being rich, and he ends up being, investing in Apple, thinking that it's a fruit company very, very early on and making money and so on. Wonderful story that maybe is a little too romantic for the control freaks. But believe it or not, I know tons of billionaires, and I know that many of them did not make it through control, but made it through doing things that they love, that were things that, at the right time, that fit their skills and fit the world that they were trying to serve. Now, when we go to the reality of control, it's important for me to tell you, so one side is, yeah, maybe you should prioritize what you attempt to control, but I want you to understand that whatever it is that you prioritize and whatever it is that you attempt to control, there are only two things in life, only two things in life that you can actually control. And the thought experiment I normally use to explain this concept is a bit of a game show, if you want. Imagine that you are part of a new game show, similar to that old show that was called Survivors, where you're stranded on an island. And the only trick with that game show is that anything that falls out of your control will work against you. Okay. So if you take with you a knife to the island, yes, you can use the knife to cut things and maybe hunt or whatever. But then the minute the knife is not within your control, it's going to stab you in the heart, right? If you take with you a gallon of water, yes, the gallon of water will help you to drink while you're awake. But once you fall asleep and you don't control the water, it will drown you and kill you. And, it's a bit of an imaginary high-tech game show, if you want, okay? But if you actually spend time this evening thinking about that game show and imagining that you're part of it, you will realize that nothing that you can take to that island will always be in control. Okay? Can you take your friends to the island? No, your friends sometimes prefer other things over you. They're not always within control. Can you take your partner with you? Hello, remember all of those fights where your partner wanted to kill you. Okay? Can you take a car? Yeah, we'll move you around, but then eventually basically hit you in a wall once it's out of control, and so on, right? The only two things in life that you can actually control, the only two things in life you can take with you to the island, interestingly, are not material things. They're your actions and your attitudes. And by actions, I don't actually mean the results of your actions. I mean just your actions. When a situation arises, okay, your attitude of how do I respond to that situation, okay, and then the actual actions that you take from that moment when the situation arises are really what's going to determine your state of happiness and your state of success. Now, let me give you clear examples. Again, maybe we can use some movies. One of my favorite movies of all time is the movie Life is Beautiful. If you remember, that movie was about an Italian father, a Jewish father, that got sent to a concentration camp along with his child. And instead of witnessing the horrors of the camp, he convinced his child that this was a game and that the winner of the game is going to win a tank. And to win the game, you have to hide from the soldiers. Okay? And so the attitude of the child became, this is a game. Let's play. Okay? Let's have fun. Let's enjoy it. Let's hide. And he wasn't scared. He wasn't attempting to run away out of fear. He wasn't screaming. And yeah, despite the horrors that was in a situation like this, which I think all humans can relate to until today, that child was actually saved as a result. And the whole movie became a wonderful story of a father and a child relationship. If you haven't seen it, that is really the power of your attitude. And your attitude is about everything. Huh? You can take an attitude about the current political climate in the world and get grumpy about it, or you can say, well, politics are politics and I need to do something about it, and here is how I'm going to engage. You can take an attitude around how your partner sometimes does things that annoy you, or you can tell yourself she's wonderful or he's wonderful in so many other ways, and I'm going to always be supportive and wonderful in the way I speak to them. More importantly than your attitude, because attitude alone serves you, but doesn't serve, and serves you and presents you to others in a positive way, but doesn't change much. What changes much is actions. And my favorite movie on that topic is Apollo 13. And in Apollo 13, the mission is going to the moon, something goes wrong, and they no longer are getting to the moon, but also they are almost certainly going to lose their lives. And if you have seen the movie, Tom Hanks, captain of the ship, comes, to the microphone and says the very famous statement that we frequently repeat, Houston, we have a problem. So calmly, almost as if he has a flat tire, right? It's like, no, we have a problem, right? And that's the right attitude, by the way. Huh? Houston, we have a problem. We need to work on this problem. And then they go through a long checklist, engineering-wise, of what went wrong, what material do they have on the ship to fix it, how much does the oxygen last them, and so on and so forth. And as a result of those actions, when things went out of control, they managed to come back to Earth safely. Now, I would want to ask every one of us to think about the situation we're in and really question, what attitude have we taken and what actions we can take so that we can come out of this better than we came in. And I think this is truly the core reason of why I wanted to have this conversation with you today. To arm you with a bit of my philosophy, if you want, and that becomes my closing remark before we open to questions. Some of you know my story, and my story is I had this wonderful being in my life that was my son, my best friend, my coach, and my mentor in many, many ways. He was an unusually enlightened being that taught me so much about myself and about what I did wrong in life and what I could learn and so on and so forth in a loving way. And then I lost Ali. I lost him to a preventable medical error. Totally out of control. I had planned everything in life for that child. I was a capable, reasonably wealthy Google executive. I am a serial entrepreneur, so I sent him to the right university. I bought him assets. I even started businesses in the major that he chose so that when he graduates, he runs those businesses. When he changed majors midway, I started other businesses. I had everything planned for him. Everything was under control. And then one little, literally pinprick One needle went in the wrong artery and I lost my son. And for those situations that go completely out of control, there is, again, a spiritual belief that I have come to call committed acceptance. Okay? Committed acceptance is not an attitude of surrender. Okay? Committed acceptance is an attitude of acceptance from a place of strength, followed by a commitment to make the world or my world better despite the presence of what went out of control. Let me give you an example. Okay, so you lose a child. It's the most painful thing you can think about ever. And you sort of earn the right in the eyes of society to spend the rest of your life crying. And so nobody would have blamed me if you've hugged Ali once. You would understand. If I closed my door and never showed up at Google again, I was the chief business officer of Google X at the time, it would have been fine. Okay? Everyone would have understood. But what difference would it have made to the world? What difference would it have made to me? What difference would it have made to him? And these are really interesting questions, because when you really think about it, if I had hit myself against the wall 27 years after his death, on my deathbed, he would still not be back. And that's really interesting when things go out of control and we're unable to get them back in control, at least us as individuals. So maybe humanity combined can get COVID-19 back under control, but you as an individual, you don't have much control on the situation. What do? Do you hit yourself against the wall for 27 years? Or do you accept the new reality and assume that this is the new baseline of your life? And based on that new baseline, you start to see what you can do to make life better despite the new baseline. And in my story, my brain basically gave me quite a few alternatives of, that's it, I don't think you should engage in life anymore. Ali's left, that's it, I'm not interested. Until one day, my brain started to attack me very strongly and say, you should have driven him to another hospital. And I went back to my brain openly and I said, okay, brain, I wish I did. I don't think I can go back in time now and do that. Is there anything you can tell me that I can actually do? Right? Which is a very simple question that, by the way, most of us as managers and senior leaders learn. When someone walks into your office and is upset about something, you ask them the question, what can we do about it? And eventually my brain came back and said, okay, you can probably, make people learn what he taught you. You can share his story in writing the book that became Solve for Happy. You can, share that with the world and give yourself a mission of 1 billion happy people. Yeah, you may never reach 1 billion, but if you reach a few 100,000, if you reach a few million, if you reach tens of millions, that's a massive, massive change for the world. They get to know Ali, they get to love him as much as I did. And it doesn't bring him back, but it makes the world better and it makes my world better. Okay? And when you think about it, that's exactly what happened. The world and my world is much better as a result of me accepting the loss of my child and then committing to make my life and the world better despite that situation. Until today, believe it or not, I wake up at least 2-3 times a week and I miss him. It hurts, right? As a parent, when you lose a child, it hurts. And committed acceptance takes me back. So I keep starting new things. I just started my podcast, which is doing really, really well, changing the lives of thousands of people. Only 3 months in, part of the top 10 podcasts worldwide, top 10% what podcasts worldwide. And it's spreading happiness and it's making a difference. And every time I get a response back from someone saying this really changed my life, I feel that this was Ali and the loss of Ali and committed acceptance. So I will close by saying this. You too can apply committed acceptance to your life, to your work, to your relationships. You too can choose to control certain things and let other things dangle in their equilibrium. Okay? Because the things we don't try to control will go out of control until they reach that balance. And once you do that, you will start to find yourself in a situation where that balance, that situation is so much easier to go through life with. for most things, 90% of things don't really deserve the amount of attention we put to controlling them. For the few things that we try to control, try your best to control them. But if they fall out of control, ask yourself this: can I accept them and do better despite their presence? And once you do that, you'll find that what we're going through as humanity is actually not that bad at all. Because I'll tell you openly, during the lockdown, I found the most time to reflect. I found the most time to connect. I found the most time to do good in life. I started amazing projects. Okay, I gave to, you know, and improved my karma for those people that were not as fortunate as I am. And through those acts, okay, I lost weight, I worked out, I made decisions on where I want to live and how I want to live going forward. I meditated more rigorously. I started the podcast, as I told you, and so on. And, you know, when you really think about it, yes, of course, as humanity, we lost quite a few things that are precious to us, but we've gained quite a few things as a result. And those of us who committed and accepted, I think, are coming out of this much, much, much better than they came in. So I'll stop here and take questions.
So first of all, thank you, Mo, for sharing your story. It's just truly, you know, it's so inspirational, and hopefully will help many other people to go through stuff the right way. So thanks for that. You mentioned your book, Solve for Happy. So in which you know, talk about happiness and the equation and so on. So my first question to you would be around, what does happiness mean to you as a person?
Yeah, what happiness is actually quite a difficult question, huh? Because if you ask a lot of people, many people will see it differently. And some people will see that happiness is that dance party that you go to on Friday. Others will say happiness is in going on a surfing vacation. And others will say happiness is eating a burger, and so on and so forth. These sadly are what I call weapons of mass distraction. So weapons of mass distraction are products, items, things, experiences that we have replaced happiness with. From the happiness equation, happiness is that calm, peaceful feeling you get when you're okay with life as it is. When you look at the events of life and say, those events, they match my expectations. Okay, my partner is nice, he's kind, he is understanding, he clearly loves me, but he has 4 hairs in his ear, and that pisses me off, right? I mean, the 4 hairs, they drive me crazy, but put it all together, I'm okay with him as he is. Okay, and when you really think about happiness from that point of view, it is the foundation on top of which all of the other experience come along. So the experience of us, you know, wanting to go surfing or going on vacation on its own is what I call the state of escape. The state of escape is I'm unable to escape my unhappiness. And so I will engage in experiences that will numb my brain. It will get me so occupied in what I'm doing that I won't be able to solve the happiness equation. And when I don't solve the happiness equation, I don't compare events to expectations. And when I don't compare events to expectations, my actual state of life is happy. So all children are happy because they don't realize that there is anything to be unhappy about. Mm-hmm. Now, if you apply that feeling, if you apply that approach to life, you start to understand even the chemical makeup of us when we are happy and when we are having fun, because these are very, very different. Most of the productized happiness produces dopamine, which is a reward hormone that we feel, that makes us feel rewarded. So it basically gets us to want more of it, of something, right? It's the hormone you get when you win something. It's the hormone you get when you engage in pleasurable activities, and so on and so forth, right? Dopamine is an excitatory, so it's basically keeping you wanting to go for more. When you're happy, interestingly, the hormone that you get in your body is serotonin, and serotonin is a calmer. It is a hormone that literally does nothing but say, let's engage the parasympathetic nervous system everything is okay as it is right now. I don't want to change anything. Let's, stop engaging in life and just focus on our breathing and focus on our digestion and focus on relaxing and feel, at peace. Okay. The interesting difference between them is that because dopamine is an excitatory, once you have dopamine in your blood, serotonin goes away. Okay. So the reality is that you cannot be happy and calm and peaceful if you're all constantly injecting yourself with fun and pleasure and things. Okay. Because those things basically remove the happiness, the ability to find that calm and peace. I'm not saying you shouldn't have fun, by the way. I'm just saying don't have fun as a painkiller. Okay. So if you have a reason to be unhappy, the answer is to work on your unhappiness, to get to that calm and peaceful state first, and then add to that what makes you have fun, what makes you excited, what makes you exhilarated, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Need to explain that to my husband, by the way. Difference. You also mentioned that, with your book, there is somehow this mission of making it's 1 billion people happy now, and it's kind of a movement. So my second question is around, like, what does the mission really mean in reality, and how is it happening? Because billion or million even is, big numbers.
Yeah, no, I mean, we know at Google that 1 billion is not a big number, but I will tell you openly, honestly, I will tell you, I don't think I will ever achieve 1 billion, and I hope that I alone don't achieve 1 billion. So a mission of reaching 1 billion people, believe it or not, with a bit of investment in online advertising, you can reach 1 billion people and have your 18 minutes of fame in a TED talk and say, hey, we've developed this wonderful thing and it reached 1 billion people. But that would be lying about what I believe is the most important mission on our planet today. Okay, the most important mission on our planet today, in my view, relates to that idea of finding the calm and peace of being okay with life, so that we engage with life differently. So happiness is not a luxury to me. Happiness is the reason we're destroying our planet, is because we're unable to get that state of union, of harmony, of caring about our happiness and our own happiness and the happiness of all beings around us. And so when you think about it, 1 billion happy is a very simple mission of what I call pay it forward. Again, I use movies a lot, and one of Ali's, my son's favorite movies, was a movie called Pay It Forward, which is the idea of if I can show you today, all watching us, that happiness is your priority, that it's as important as your success, even more important if you ask me. Not that you should drop success, but that if you have a choice between happiness and success, you should probably choose what makes you happy first, because that will lead you to success. And basically, if I can convince you that this is important, then the trigger of my mission has happened, which is then you need to go out and do one of two actions. If you see your happiness as your priority, then you should invest in your happiness, just like you invest in your fitness. Okay, so everyone knows that if you make fitness your priority, that's not going to make you fit. You can make fitness your priority, but do nothing about it and end up with a massive belly, right? If you want to make fitness your priority, you need to go and work out 3 to 4 times a week. You need to do the work, right? And happiness is the same. If you make happiness your priority and do the work, watch a video, read a book, discuss happiness with others, join a group, engage in practices of gratitude, meditation, work on your control freakishness, and so on and so forth. If you do the work, that's when you realize that happiness will happen. So make it your priority is the first pillar of the mission. Work on your own happiness and invest in your own happiness is the second pillar. And the third pillar is have the compassion in you to spread that happiness to others. And I use the simple exponential function by saying that if everyone on this call told 2 people what they learned, made them prioritize their happiness, and made them promise to tell 2 other people, and they then went to 2 more each, then 2 people will tell 2 people, and then it will go into the exponential function. And within 5 years, we would reach 1 billion happy. And that's my dream. So when I really talk to my team around the mission, I say, success of this mission is that we manage to reach 1 million champions that reach 1 billion happy, and that we get completely forgotten. And to get completely forgotten is fundamental for the success of this, so that it's not dependent on my presence or the presence of the 1 billion happy team. It's dependent on everyone championing happiness as their part of their purpose of life.
I think it's a wonderful message to all of us listening here today. So definitely make that my mission as well. We mentioned a little bit, the COVID-19, which, as you said, has been for most of us an unexpected event, right? So I was just wondering, in your book, you talk about the equation, which is about events and it's about the expectations, but how does the equation changes or not when it comes to something that is unexpected, that it's just like out of nowhere?
Is it unexpected, really? So
I don't know.
I actually have a lot. Again, if you work at Google, you remember that we were always data driven. Data trumps all opinions. Huh? Now, let me give you a bit of data. Let's start historically. If you were born in 1900, by age 14, there was World War I, where 22 million people died. By age 18, there was the Spanish flu, 50 million people died. By age 29, there was the Great Depression. By age 39, 75 million people died in World War II. And by age 50, smallpox had already killed 300 million people, if I remember correctly, during that century. Okay, I'm 53. I've seen none of those, right? And I'll tell you openly, and please don't take this as carelessness from me. Every life matters, huh? But numbers are important. To understand and see the truth is what gets us to set the right expectations, huh? To COVID-19, so far in the last 6 months, we've lost somewhere above 500,000 people, maybe 600,000 people. 90% of them were vulnerable, so they were above the age of 65 and suffered from other reasons of being vulnerable. 70% were above the age of 75. And for every one person that we lost to COVID-19, we lost 3 others to other respiratory diseases, including influenza, which we don't talk about, which is part of our life on a daily basis, and we don't even discuss it. Okay, if you count the number of deaths to medical malpractice that killed my son, it's 10-fold higher than the numbers. I don't know if it's exactly 10, but it's several-fold higher than COVID-19. Now, let's understand the truth. The truth is we get sick. The truth is we humans die. The truth is there are viruses out there. And the fact that we did not see that before makes us quite lucky. But that shouldn't set our expectation that life is not going to test us every now and then, that life is not going to give us a bit of hardship every now and then. And if you don't mind me saying, and I please take this as someone who is completely humbled by the blessings I have been given in life, right? But if you did not get sick and did not lose any loved one to COVID-19 and did not suffer serious economic deprivation as a result of COVID-19, then you absolutely have no problem other than being forced to sit on your sofa and surf social media. Okay? And if you call that a test, then go to Syria and understand what real tests are. Go to Africa and understand how harsh life can be. Go to India and see how diseases can take over thousands of people. And I think the challenge we have, and I say that very, very openly, is a challenge of expectations. I'm here with you, talking to you over a technology that we didn't have just 10, 15 years ago, connecting with thousands of people, okay? Happily in my living room, going back to my habits of cooking and feeling healthy and fine. And yeah, I wear a mask, I take care of myself. And by the way, if I catch the disease, I'm hopeful that I'll be fine. And if I'm not fine, you know what? We die. You're more likely to be in a car accident than you are to die of COVID-19. Now, put all of that together and ask yourself, where is the problem? The problem is we've somehow forgotten with our ego as humanity that sometimes life with its mighty wheels will be bigger than us and that we will be out of control. Okay? Somehow we forgot that life with its mighty wheels, when we've been destroying our environment so much, might actually react by saying, guys, can you just stay at home for 2 months? Like seriously, just give me 2 months to recover the quality of the air. Okay, like my daughter, when this all started, my daughter was telling me, Papa, you know what this feels like? It feels like life is basically looking at us and saying, life or God or whichever you want to believe in. Life is looking at us and saying, that's it. I've had it with you humans. You're grounded. Go back to your room and think about what you've been doing. This is it. This is, if you're in this conference call and if you're in this webinar, right? This is it. This is what we're suffering from, being asked to sit on our sofas and watch Netflix. How horrible.
Great. Thanks for putting things into perspective. It's quite refreshing. So my last question is around what practical advice would you give to our global audience?
I believe that this is a moment in life where we need to dig deep and find what our humanity is about. Okay? And I'll tell you openly that if you put things in perspective, as we got locked down, for example, as we got locked down, we also got economic purchasing power, believe it or not, because I can guarantee you, without your commute, without the cost of dining out and traveling and all of that, most of us are spending less than we used to before COVID-19. At the same time, where some of us have lost their jobs, and nations at large are suffering from economic crisis. So I've spent a couple of months a few months in a village in the Dominican Republic that's called Cabarete, that is highly dependent on tourism, and they are now suffering 84% unemployment. Now, if you want to reach inside and make COVID-19 teach you your humanity, I'd say the top feature of humanity is compassion. Okay, so you might as well tell yourself, how much did I save on monthly basis, and maybe give that out to someone else. Okay, my advice, which I had from one guest, Kevin, on my podcast, which was super enlightening. He said, I'm going into this with one intention, which is to come out of it better than I came in. Okay, better than I came in is up to you to choose. You may want to work out and be fitter. You may want to learn the guitar, or you may want to work on yourself and find your compassion and find your self-love and find your ability to be present and so on and so forth. Whatever it is that you're going through right now, it's an opportunity that life is giving you a little more time, giving you a little more space, giving you a lot more information, so that you can make decisions that make you come out of this better than you came in.
It's a great advice. Thank you for that. Okay, do we have any questions from anyone listening? William, how do you think about striving for great things and the benefits that may bring to society versus the likely unhappiness of not achieving them?
Beautiful question, William. This is a great question. So, by the way, this is the question I always get from achievers. Okay, it's like, are you saying that by lowering our expectations we will be happier? Yeah, sadly, you can debate that with whoever designed life as it is. Lowering your expectations makes you happier. So in India, when they don't expect to eat for days, if you give them a bowl of rice, they feel very happy. In America, if the fries are not perfect, we feel unhappy. Okay, and so because expectations are lower, your chance of being happier is higher. But that doesn't make you successful in life. And I am a huge believer. I mean, look at me. I'm still actively engaged in life. Doing my podcast, writing more books, engaged in my mission, working on my startup, and many other things. The reason is because each of us is here in life to achieve something, to have an impact, to leave a positive mark on humanity and on being at large. Now, the only difference you need to recognize is there is a difference between expectation and ambition. Okay, ambition is to directionally say, if my life was worthwhile, I will achieve something. I will go in that direction and I'll get to 1 billion happy, right? That's an ambition. That's a directional strategy for my life, okay? And a far enough target that makes me strive and strive and strive and do the best that I can, okay? But expectation is to tell myself openly, you know, other than Larry Page and a few other tech, entrepreneurs, it took Jesus, 2,000 years to reach 1 billion people. Who am I, right? I'm, if I don't reach 1 billion people, that doesn't make me unsuccessful in any way. It shouldn't make me unhappy. So while my ambition is 1 billion happy, my actual expectation is I don't know if I'll ever reach that, and I wouldn't be unhappy if I don't. Okay, so Larry Page actually was the one that taught us this. Larry Page always said expectations are set to be missed, and I don't know if that's still part of the culture of Google, but I love that statement, which is the idea, like Michelangelo used to say, of setting a target that is high enough, and missing it is better than setting a target that is very low and achieving it. Okay, so if you don't get them mixed up, set as many ambitions as you want, but when they are missed, handle them with committed acceptance, engage and make them work better, and don't feel unhappy that those were missed, because they were never expectations anyway. They were just ambitions.
Yeah, great. Another question maybe from Matt. Hi Mo, it sounds like your ideas on control largely follows the ideas in Stoicism. What are your thoughts on Stoicism and as a philosophy?
I get that question a lot, and I love Stoicism, but I will have to say that spiritual teachings in general suffer from a bit of an attention bias. Okay, so those of us who adore Stoicism will think that what I talk about is Stoicism. I also get that question, that same comment from Buddhism, which will tell me that's very clearly what Buddhism is about. Hinduism will say detachment is exactly the same. Islam will say the idea of surrender is exactly the same, Sufism, and so on and so forth, right? So those are, I always say the human manual wasn't written yesterday. I think there is a lot of interesting wisdom that is enhanced with modern science and with modern understanding of the human machine about what makes us happy or unhappy, okay? I found in my life that there is a lot of beauty in the core of all spiritual teachings, and that there is a lot of crap that surrounds a bit of them, or all of them. Okay, there is a bit of crap. Let me put it that way. There is a bit of crap that surrounds all of them. Okay, so some of the core of religions and spiritual teachings is wonderful, and then humans walk in like bureaucrats and start to go do and don't, and this is wrong and this is right, and don't say this and don't do that, and so on and so forth. And that's where it falls apart, if you want, and it becomes a little off center. Okay, so my approach to things is I try to mix. So I studied all of those, by the way. I started Stoicism. I studied Buddhism, Hinduism, Sufism, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. Okay, and a bit of shamanic beliefs and spiritual teachings as well. And when you put it all together and put a bit of science and mathematics and a bit of physics and so on and so forth, neuroscience and so on, it starts to make a lot more sense. And that's where my joy and excitement comes across. So whichever path you choose, by the way, is my message. Whichever path you choose, if you choose the path of Stoicism and that gets you there, perfect. If you choose the path of neuroscience or psychology and that gets you there, perfect. And all I'm asking people to do is to understand that there is a path that fits you. Okay, my path involved a little bit of engineering, a little bit of mathematics, a little bit of science, a little bit of spirituality, but it doesn't have to be your path. And it doesn't have to. You don't have to force it as the path of others. It's up to all of us to convince others that they need to find that path that suits them. But it's not up to us to tell them what that path is.
Wonderful. I'm wondering whether we have time for one last question from someone, and then we'll. Bendy, hi Mo. How have your philosophies on happiness and control affected your own personal life in terms of relationships? That's interesting.
Oh, wonderful question. Yeah, I think the top illusion that affected my relationships was an illusion that I call the illusion of knowledge. I thought that what I knew about myself and how relationships could be was right. Uh, as a matter of fact, I think one of my most wonderful experiences in the last 4.5 years was embracing my feminine side, understanding truly how the feminine works, and that has impacted my relationships in very, very interesting way, because I wasn't able, when they say men are from Mars and women are from Venus, you can actually understand and relate how Venus thinks. Okay, control is an illusion, and when you try to control your partner in a relationship, by definition, you're creating a prison that they are going to run away from. When you try to control your employees in your relationship, by definition, they're going to look for a nicer manager. When you try to control, anyone that comes into your life in any way, shape, or form, by definition, they're going to try to escape just as much as you try to escape. And so allowing people to understand what you need and what you want in life without trying to force them to comply to the way you do things, so they can deliver what you need in their own way if they want to. I think I found that to be the best way to maintain a wonderful relationship, and to do it the other way around, to be able to openly ask people what that you want in your life, what they need in their life, and as a result, ask them if they don't mind you doing it your way, as long as you deliver that result without the need for control from their side. Long question, by the way, can't be answered in 1 minute, but wonderful question and very important.
Well, thank you for answering it, and thank you all for being here today with us. This has been very inspiring, and hopefully we'll see you again, Mo. So thank you very much.
I'm always available. And yeah, do stay in touch. Find me on social media. I answer every comment and every question that I get.
Yeah, and we all need to read the book again and again and listen to your wonderful podcast. So seeing you, hearing you there for sure. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day. Thank you, Mo, for being here today with us.
Thank you, Katka. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.
Bye.